We're now only 2 races from the end of the 2021 Formula 1 season, and what a season it's been. Neither championship has been decided yet, and it looks like they're gonna go down to the wire. This season, I've fallen more in love with F1 than I ever thought I would, and I want this video to be a tribute, in a way, to all that I love about Formula 1, and some of the stuff I hate, too. But before we get into that, this video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Part of the reason my upload schedule is so flaky at the moment is because I watch a lot of Netflix, and I've used Surfshark to watch things that are blocked in the UK, such as Inception, which is one of my favourite films ever. To watch Inception, I just change my location on the VPN to Canada, and boom, Netflix thinks I'm in Canada, and lets me watch Inception. When you use it for just browsing the web, Surfshark will keep your data secure by not saving it in their own servers and by using two-factor authentication that makes it extra hard for cybercriminals to do criminaling. Surfshark is fast and easy to use, with servers in over 3,200 countries, and it'll automatically connect you to the fastest server in the location you want to connect to. You can run it on as many devices as you want from just a single subscription, and you're not just limited to PCs. You can put it on smartphones, smart TVs, games consoles. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if you can install it on your fridge at some point in the future. So if you want to get Surfshark for yourself, then head to this link and enter promo code John Warren for 83% off and 4 extra months for free. Plus, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you're not satisfied, then you're not going to be backed into a corner over it. Thank you again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and let's get into the main part of it. Passion is a beautiful thing, don't you think? It's an emotion that, like a snap of oversteer, you can't control. You're a passenger, but instead of heading into a tyre wall, you're heading towards love. Formula 1 is not the only sport I watch, just as a significant other will not be the only person you speak to, but F1 is the only sport that makes me feel this way. I'm not ashamed to admit that F1 has made me cry, because I know that means I'm so emotionally invested in it that I feel genuine sadness when something bad happens. My brother says that F1 isn't a sport, and of course I disagree with him, but so what if it isn't a sport if it makes me feel this way? Part of the reason I'm such a huge Max Verstappen fan is because of the way his driving makes me feel. It's that feeling of total confidence that he can go out and extract the absolute maximum out of his car every single lap. Drivers on the level of Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton seem not to make mistakes. They're superhuman to us, and I consider Max as a hero, an idol even. There's so much more to Formula 1 than just the drivers though. Just one look at a Formula 1 car is enough to spark in me a feeling of true wonder. I love looking at them, knowing that even the tiniest little shard of carbon fiber can be worth such a huge margin over a lap. But what even is a huge margin? Because in all other sports, a tenth of a second is nothing. That's the amount of time a basketball is in contact with the ground when a player bounces it. That's less time than it takes that basketball player to blink. It took me more than a tenth of a second to say the word "it" at the beginning of this sentence, and yet when Max Verstappen took pole by a tenth, we called it a dominant session. We say that Haas are a slow team in Formula 1, but yet their cars can still pull up to 5G around the corners and hit 200 miles an hour on the straights. But the thing I find most impressive about Formula 1 is not the acceleration or the top speeds or even the cornering, it's the braking. Formula 1 cars go from 200 to 0 in about 150 meters, while the average car could barely reach a standstill from 80 in that same distance. The brakes will reach thousands of degrees when the driver hits the brake pedal, and they can do that every single corner without losing a bit of performance. The brake pedal won't even move without a force of almost 80 kilograms applied to it, such is the strength of the brakes and the drivers. Every inch of a Formula 1 car is covered in aerodynamic surfaces. They slice through the air in front of them, creating downforce with the floor, wings, and even the exhausts in the past. Formula 1 is man and machine being pushed to the absolute limit, and I'm always amazed when these cars get even faster between years. It's been 70 years of the best brains in the business, and still we're probably not going as fast as we could ever go. The RB16B and the W12 look so different to one another, and yet they can lap within a blink of an eye. And Formula 1 is not, as some may say, just driving around in circles. If it were that easy, then we'd all be Formula 1 drivers. F1 is geometry, creativity, beauty, and most of all, F1 is bravery. To be going at 200 miles an hour with another human being in a different car right alongside you, with walls just meters to your either side, is an insane level of bravery. Oh, and the pit stops. The fact that it's even possible to change all 4 tyres of a car in under 2 seconds is ridiculous. Even more ridiculous is the fact they can do that without the tyres falling off. sometimes. But like, it's the most beautifully coordinated dance of mechanics, isn't it? The fact that there are 20 people standing around a car and none of them get in each other's way. Not to mention the huge trust they put in the drivers behind the wheel, not to miss their braking points from motorway speeds. Again, another display of ridiculous bravery that I can't help but fall in love with. And off track, I'm just as invested in the sports. I find myself wondering what the other drivers are saying about one another and what regulations will be changing next season and what the top teams are accusing each other of doing. Formula 1 is not just about the sport itself though, it's a travelling circus with thousands of employees and billions of dollars worth of the finest engineering on the planet. It's a soap opera, too. Sure, Drive to Survive may not be able to call itself a documentary, but it's still a fairly accurate look into the psychology and the lives of the drivers we consider as superhuman. I've only been watching F1 since 2017, so this season is the first time I've witnessed a genuine championship fight. For my favourite driver to be involved is both something I love and something I hate, because I know exactly how I'll feel if Max wins, and although I've been trying to ignore it as a possibility, I know how I'll feel if he loses. I saw F1 live and in the flesh for the first time this year at the British Grand Prix. We missed out on having fans at races last year, so for things to be back to some sort of normal is really nice. And oh my god, if you haven't been to a race, then you need to do it. Even just watching fan perspectives of the race start is enough to give me goosebumps, so being there in person is just something else. And F1 isn't just the here and now, it's the history too. Ferrari and Monaco are two of the most widely known things from F1 that non-F1 fans know of, and that's because of their prestige and their history. It helps, of course, that Ferrari make road cars, but if you asked someone to name a Formula 1 team, chances are they're going to say Ferrari. I'd still love Formula 1 without it having the history it does, but the fact that it's so well documented since it began has made it even easier to develop an interest. But back to this year and the time that F1 made me cry. It was the Hungarian Grand Prix, strangely, because Max had already come off the back of a huge crash in Silverstone, and I was expecting him to bounce back in Hungary, before Valtteri Bottas absolutely terrorised both Red Bulls and both McLarens into turn 1. It of course didn't help that McLaren are my favourite team, so for my favourite driver, favourite driver's teammate, and favourite team to be wiped out in just one braking zone was quite sad. And this sport also makes me angry. Were it not for Max being killed in Baku, Silverstone and Hungary, he would have won the championship already and with ease. And yet, I've seen fans of Lewis Hamilton saying that Max doesn't deserve the points scored in Belgium and that would be the unfair thing here. I'm sorry, remind me who was the only driver to out-qualify a Williams in that race? And anyway, had the race gone ahead, Max would probably have scored 26 points. So in fact, he didn't gain any points. He lost 13.5 of them. Again, if those points had been given, he would have all but won the championship already. But I realise that not everyone who watches my videos is a hardcore Verstappen fan. So in the interest of keeping this to the sport of a whole, let's just appreciate how good this championship fight has been so far, with an edit I made the other day to promote the final 2 races.
Always think of you when spring comes, like it's something in the air at that time, don't know why.
He can go out and party like he's never partied before.
It's like the
Top in the record books.
Takes me back to the time met you on a Friday, halfway out at the door of the club, playing soul on the weekends, staying late till Wednesday. Fell in love with you right there and then. I was young, couldn't see that.
Championship Grand Prix.
Leather jacket, though, is too cold.
2 rounds to go, and we still don't know who's going to win this championship. Maybe F1 will make me cry with sadness this year, or maybe it will be with joy. Whichever it is, though, F1 makes me cry, and I love it.